Now let's go to backup plans and let's talk about backup policies, its configurations and possibilities. So obviously, in order to create a backup plan, we have to press the Add Plan button, but there are also few ways more, like for example, from devices, we can choose few computers we are going to protect, press Assign Plan, and instead of choosing any existing plan, we can press on the New Plan button. Then we have to provide the backup plan name. I can name it, for example, ICOS training. This is information just for the administrator and for administrative purposes. For example, if you will take a look on the logs or the list of the plans, you will be able to determine what kind of data is included with this in this backup plan. Then we have to choose the backup type. And let me focus firstly on the backup types that are available for physical devices. So I mean file and image level backups. With the file level, we are accessing the data directly from the file system. So you can choose files and folders you want to back up from selected computers. And exactly in the same way, we can recover them. If we are talking about choosing the devices to be protected, I made it before directly from the list of devices, but we can also do it once configuring the backup plan. And here I've pressed just edit button. There is list of my computers. There is also the search engine available, but we can also check that we are going to protect all devices. It could be very useful, for example, in the case when customer wants to have some backup policy which applies to all computers in his company. So once any new computer will be activated in Xopero 1, it will be also automatically covered by this backup policy. But I'm not going to do so. I will stay with just my two computers selected, and let me take you to data to protect. Now I have to select what kind of data I'm going to protect, and there are a few ways to choose those data. First of all, I think the easiest one from the user perspective is to choose the data directly from the computers. So I'm just pressing on the computer name, and below I've got the list of the data on my computer. So I can choose some folders, some files I'm going to protect. Let's say there is some TMP, but I believe the TMP may be quite huge, but there is test backup directory, so I believe we can easily back this directory up. From another computer, I can choose another directory, another set of data to be to be protected. So there is also some TMP, and there is drive image. So this TMP may be quite huge, but for example, let's back up from this computer support tools and test small directory. And this way of choosing data to backup could be very useful if we are going to protect 2, 3, 5, maybe up to 10 computers. But if you will have to select manually data to backup from tens, hundreds, or even thousands of computers, it may be tough at least. So to make it way easier, instead of selecting the data directly from particular computers, you can set global rules that applies to each computer selected to this backup policy. So for example, let's assume we are going to protect data from desktop and documents on Windows operating systems, because users very often find out those places are the best to keep their valuable data and their very important place. So we can provide it manually as a path, but this path to user desktop and directory contains the username, so it doesn't apply to each computer, and still we have to provide this path manually. We can use system variable to do so, and I believe we can easily define some system variable which points to user's directory, for example. If such variable doesn't exist in Active Directory environment, it could be pretty easy to create such variable, or you can use Xopero variable, which is provided with Xopero 1 service. There are just a few variables through which you can select the most common user choices. Like for example, as I said, user documents, and let's protect also user desktops. And here right now I've got two different variables selected to be baked up, and I'm quite sure it will cover my documents directory and my desktop from all deselected computers. For the file level backups, if we are talking about choosing the data to be baked up, there are also available filters through which we can easily exclude or just include only the selected files. We are able to exclude data by their attributes, like for example, hidden or system files and folders can be excluded from our backup. We can also filter the data based on the file name or the extension. And for example, we can limit our backups only to documents and maybe to docx directories as well, so we can be sure that all files produced by Word are covered by our backup. It's also possible to limit the backup, to exclude the files from backup by their size. And very often in some big infrastructure, in some complex environments, when there are a lot of endpoint devices with end users that doesn't control what kind of data they keep on their customers, we get the demand from the IT administrator that, I would like to exclude the files that are, for example, greater than 300 of megabytes because it's impossible for the end user to produce the document with such huge size. And thanks to it, the admin has also have some additional control over their backups because they can be sure that so big files won't be added to the backup policy. And also we can exclude some paths from the backup. So for example, we can cover entire C drive with our backup, but for example, Windows directory we can be excluded with this filter as well. So let me apply this filter and let me apply our data selection. After that, for each backup plan, we have to choose the storage location. What you have to know, you can assign unlimited number of backup plans to selected computers, and you can use also with single Xopero 1 instance unlimited numbers of storages. So in the case when customer, for example, needs to keep some data locally and some data in the cloud, you just need to create two different backup policies with two different storages assigned. At this moment, here you can see I've got two different locals, two different storages set in my Xopero 1, which is Smb mounted, so I made it available as a local directory, but there is also some external Smb storage. And in order to create the new storage, we just need to press the add new storage being on this site. And firstly, we have to choose the storage type. We've talked a lot about the storage types, so I think you don't need any additional explanation about the storage types that are supported, but let me guide you through their configuration. So the first and the easiest one is a local directory. For example, let's define the local storage in the way I'm going to provide the C local repo path. As you saw, I'm not choosing the computer where this repository should be created because it will be automatically created on each computer assigned to the backup policy, which utilize this storage. And in this case, each computer will keep its data locally on its own hard drives. Then we've got network location available over the Smb Share. In order to access such share, we just need to provide some basic authentication data, like for example the username. And then we have to choose the password, which is already stored in our secure password manager, or we can create the new one password to our secure password manager, and thanks to it we can be sure that this password is very safe, it's encrypted in the Xopero One management service. I think I have got already password to this resource defined, and it should be this one. And after that we have to provide the path to Smb Share. It could be done in few ways. We can set this path, we can provide this path, for example, manually. But if you don't remember how to exactly set the path up, you can just provide the IP address of your share, and after that you can, from quite nice graphical interface, choose the exact location for your data store. Please note that each computer, each agent which utilizes the storage should be able to access it over provided IP address here. And the last storage, which is the last local storage from the customer's infrastructure, which is available in Xopero One, is Nfs Share. We've provided the simplest integration with NFS resources, so you just need to provide the path to the Nfs Share, and all the authentication is realized over the IP address, so you have to be sure that you configured properly your Nfs Share. The last two storages available for to be added to Xopero One are AWS S3 and any other S3 compliant. Their configuration is pretty similar. So for AWS S3, you have to provide the access key and secret access key. So those two data necessary to connect to S3 bucket. Then you have to choose the region. All public regions are supported, of course, by Xopero One, and the bucket name. If we are talking about any other S3 storage compliant provider, instead of the location, instead of the region, you have to provide the service URL. And what's kind of important, and I forgot to mention about, is a browsing machine you can see below on this form. With this machine, we are choosing the computer which is used already to access to the storage. So this is the Grzegorz new computer, but at any time you can change it to any different machine. So, for example, if we are talking about the infrastructure with two different locations, so there is main and branch office. In main office, we've got management service configured, and we are going to set up the storage from the branch office. The only what we have to do is to install the agent on any computer on this branch office, connect this agent to our management service, and here choose this agent as a browsing machine. So to browsing machine, Xopero One management service is sending all requests that must be done with the storage already during its configuration. The last kind of storage which we can use with Xopero One is of course Xopero One storage, but this storage is added through the license. So now let me choose the storage I've got already defined. So let me take you to the scheduler. With the scheduler, of course, we have determined when and how often our backup should be done. We provide two different backup schemes, Basic and GFS. Basic is the simplest one. It consists of two different kind of copies. The full one, which covers all data selected to be backed up, no matter if they have changed since last backup or not. So when the time for full copy comes, it takes all data from the source and send them as backup. In case of the incremental copy, it contains the differences made since the last backup, no matter if it was full one or incremental. So usually it takes a way less time and way less data to transfer to the storage. In basic backup scheme, we can define for each copy, for each kind of copy, how often it should be done. So for example, we can make our full copy every week, even every Sunday, let's say quite excuse me, let's say quite early morning around 6 a.m. After that, we have to set up incremental copy, and here exactly we can do exactly the same. So the full copy in our case is a weekly one, and let's say incremental will be hourly even. So we are going to start it, let's say, 3 times during a day. So the first at 6 a.m., then let's say at noon, and after that around 4 p.m. So at those 3 different hours during the day, our backup will be triggered if we will stay, of course, with a basic scan. Because other one is GFS. Here, in comparison to basic, there is additional differential copy, but also the full copy is a monthly one, so we cannot change the periods for the full copy. It made once per month, and we have to select the day of the month and the time when our copy should be triggered. It's full, so it contains all data from the backup source, no matter if they have been changed since last backup or not. Then we've got differential copy. It contains all changes since last full or last differential copy made. It's made once per week, so we can treat it as a weekly copy. It contains all changes from our source backup, from our source that has been made during the entire week. And we can select the day of the week when we are going to trigger this backup, and also the hour to start the backup process. And at the end, we've got incremental copy, which is also a part of GFS backup scan. Incremental copy, in this case, is considered to be a daily one. So it's made once per day, and we have to control over which days we are starting this backup and the time of backup start. Before we will talk about the rest options of the scheduler, let me take you to the retention to explain why sometimes it's better to use GFS instead of basic. By default, we keep customers' data infinitely. It means we won't remove any backup version automatically, and we will create a new backup policies as long as there will be enough space on the storage. You have to be careful with the settings, especially when you are going to use some public clouds like, for example, AWS S3, because it doesn't limit the bucket size. Bucket size is unlimited, so still there will be enough place to upload the data to the bucket to complete the backup. But what we have to keep in mind, cloud storage, public cloud storage may produce huge cost if we want control, for example, the size of the data sent to our storage. But we can set our retention to remove some outdated version by provided time period. And for each kind of copy, we can provide different retention period. In the case there is requirement that customer wants to keep his weekly copies for 1 year, for example, we can easily set it up to 12 months, and it doesn't interfere with incremental setting. So we can set there that we are going to keep our increments only for maybe not 2 days, but 2 weeks and no day longer, because we don't need our daily copies to be kept for so long time. We just need our differences for 1 year, and for example, let's say full copies for 5 years. So we just need to set them to be kept for 16 months. So that's the retention settings we have. And the advantage of GFS in comparison to basic in this case is this additional copy for which we can set up additional retention period. The last setting is by the total number of copies. So no matter of the kind of the copy done, you can set up the total number of copy, which we can treat like some kind of data snapshot that should be kept on the storage. Let me stay maybe with our basic setting. Instead of GFS, I'm going to make my full copy, as we said, weekly on Sundays. At 6 a.m., incremental copy we said will be hourly, will be done 3 times during the day, at 6 a.m., at noon, and at, let's say, 6 p.m. on all days of week except weekends. So the scheduler is already set. Oh, I don't know why it doesn't. Now it is. Oh, excuse me. I don't want to close the scheduler settings, because here we've got few other settings to discuss about. First of all, you can set up the backup window. It's very useful, for example, if you don't want backup tasks to interfere on your network activity. For example, if you've got quite well loaded network and you don't want to run any other additional task during your business hours, which are, for example, between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., we can set up the rest of the hours, excuse me, in this way, as permitted to make our backups. And every action that should be taken between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. between Mondays and Fridays will be denied, so no backups will be triggered. Moreover, if I will, for example, schedule our backups to start at 3 a.m., but it will take longer than 3 hours until 6 a.m. to be completed, then backup will be interrupted. It will be cancelled and it will be triggered again by the scheduler at 3 a.m. next day. So in this way, we can preserve network for our daily activities, for any other activities when we don't want our backup to be triggered. Or for example, there are other activities or other backups done from this computer at the same time. So we can also deal with it using the backup window. Then we've got task balancing. Let's say we've got quite huge environment to protect, which consists of hundreds of computers. We've got 200 of computers to protect. If we will set up our backup at 6 a.m. and 100 of computers will start their backup task at the same time at once, then I believe our network will have a quite big problem to handle the traffic, to send all those data from 100 computers to single Smb storage. And it could be very hard to complete this backup successfully because of the network and because of the bandwidth. So instead of running all 100 computers at once, when you want to stay with efficient network during the backup, you can limit the number of concurrent tasks. And for example, I want to make backups from up to 10 computers at once and no more computer. So in the case when there are 100 of computers to be backed up, they will be divided into package of tens. The first package of 10 computers will be started, and when any of those computers will complete its backup tasks, another one will start, and another one, and another one. So in this way, we can easily deal with a network consumption, and also we can set up the max start delay. With max start delay between each next task, we can prevent very high peak on our network that may be produced by starting all backup tasks at once. With this setting, each next backup task, so if we are talking about computers backup, each next computer will start the backup tasks every 30 minutes. It's quite a long time, but we can set it up, for example, to start this backup every minute. And in terms of physical devices computer, where there are 100 of computer, the last computer backup will be triggered 100 minutes later than the first ones. So I believe with these settings, there won't be situation that all computers made their backups at once. And the last setting, do not suspend while performing backup. I recommend to check this setting almost always when we are talking about computer's protection, especially notebooks and endpoints, because it prevents the computer against going into the sleep or hibernation mode. And next, let me save the scheduler setting.